Storm Chaser is probably one of the most underrated coasters known to the coaster world, but it's a force to be reckoned with. I was finally able to ride this mighty thing, and boy do I have some thoughts. This is going to be my full review of Storm Chaser. Let's get into it. Storm Chaser is located at Kentucky Kingdom and was designed by Rocky Mountain Construction. This is not to be confused with Storm Runner at Hershey Park, designed by Intamin. Storm Chaser cost the park around $10 million to build and opened in 2016. The coaster is located in what I would call the back of the park, but honestly, I don't really know. Kentucky Kingdom's layout is kinda wonky. I do know Storm Chaser is pretty isolated, tucked behind a water ride. The best way I know how to describe where the location is just to enter the park and stay to the right. Eventually, you'll get to Storm Chaser. But I wonder if that's the reason the line never gets too crazy long, or at least that's how it was on my visit. Walking up to the coaster, you pass under one of the airtime hills and a sign into a little plaza. This area is completely dedicated to the coaster, and it's quite nice. Getting up into the station, you may notice that it's really large. This is because the coaster actually reuses the station from the defunct Twisted Twins, a dueling roller coaster. From what I understand, the other side serves as the maintenance and storage area. Looking at the ride vehicles, the coaster runs 2 trains. There are 12 rows of 2 for a total of 24 riders per train, and the coaster has a capacity of about 960 riders per hour. And of course, the restraints are the typical RMC lap bars. One other note about the coaster, it uses the steel iBox track from RMC and steel supports. That's something a little different, as RMC uses wood supports normally. Okay, getting into the layout. Straight out of the station, you pass through the transfer table, similar to Steel Vengeance. You then decline and make a U-turn to the right. This leads into the lift hill, taking you 100 feet into the air. The chain moves with some speed. Exiting the lift, you do a quick turn to the left in the pre-drop section. This builds up the perfect amount of speed to what is becoming one of my favorite elements on a roller coaster, the barrel roll down drop. They're just pure fun, and in the front you can get a little bit of hang time, and in the back you get a little bit more width. At the bottom of the hill, you reach your max speed of 52 miles per hour. On paper, this seems kinda slow, but the coaster keeps its speed rather well, and it feels way faster in some sections. The first inversion and drop lead into a super sustained ejector airtime hill. Like, when I say super sustained, I mean it. It's absolutely crazy. This leads straight into a left-handed overbank turn, then into an off-axis airtime hill, turning to the left. After the turn, another off-axis airtime hill, turning back to the right. Again, these 2 hills have some amazing airtime. At this point, I would say we're about halfway through the layout. Next up is an overbank turn to the right, then is another airtime hill. This one is still strong, but you can kind of feel the speed starting to fall off. I think this works out perfectly though, because you enter the 0G roll at a great speed. In the front you get a little bit of hang time, and in the back you can still feel the whip. This is probably one of the most noticeable differences between the front and the back. After this, there's a turn to the left and you enter the famous RMC airtime run, as I like to call it. On Storm Chaser, this consists of 2 rising off-axis airtime hills that drop down and rise into a double down on the other side. Then the finale is a super tight right-hand helix and a left turn into the brakes. While POVs suggest this ending is super slow and sluggish, you can feel some of the forces on these hills, especially near the back. For that reason and a couple others, I do suggest the back row. I don't think the slower speed is as noticeable back there, and some of that ejector airtime is absolutely amazing. I think Storm Chaser is another example of the creative genius that Rocky Mountain Construction is. The coaster is not very big, but still gets 2,700 feet of track, great airtime, and 2 inversions. Obviously, Storm Chaser is a smaller RMC. It can't compare to the likes of Iron Gwazi and Steel Vengeance. However, I do think the coaster is severely underrated. I sadly haven't ridden any other small scale RMCs, but I think most of them pack an insane punch. From what I understand, this one doesn't get as much love as the others do. This could be because of the park it's at though. I mean, Kentucky Kingdom isn't necessarily the biggest park or biggest destination. Only people who have ridden it know the true power. So if you're able to get out here and ride it, I do recommend it. It's definitely top tier. As for it being underrated, you really just have to ride it to believe it. Or you believe what others like me are telling you. But anyways, I'm gonna take this straight into my final score for Storm Chaser at Kentucky Kingdom. Since it's a smaller coaster, this happens to be a shorter video. Anyways, for my final score, I give it a 9.5 out of 10. I think this coaster is really well done, but it does lose some speed by the end and it is kinda felt. While I don't think it's the biggest deal and I kinda overlooked it in the discussion, I could imagine what this final sequence is like. It just needs that extra little bit of speed. That's really my only complaint. Otherwise, this is a super solid coaster, and more people definitely need to get out here and ride it. So that's gonna do it for my review of Storm Chaser at Kentucky Kingdom. What do you think of my thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.